The world outside was a blur of white, the 40-knot winds cutting through every layer of clothing like sharp knives. Snow and ice whipped across the mountain pass, reducing visibility to just a few feet and turning every step into a gamble. A UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter shuddered violently as rotor icing and sudden microbursts forced an emergency landing. The airframe shaking under the storm's unrelenting force. The 6 Navy SEALs moved cautiously, each step calculated, knowing that one wrong move could send them plunging into hidden crevices or deeper snow. Amid the chaos, Maya Carter remained a calm presence, her eyes scanning the terrain with precision, reading the subtle cues of wind shifts and ice textures. At 27, she carried the call sign Ice Veil and a reputation for Arctic survival skills that few could match. Around her neck, a weathered shell casing etched with "Hold Calm," wind glinted faintly under the pale light. A gift from an instructor who had once taught her that patience and observation were the keys to survival. She assessed the storm and the team with a quiet intensity, every movement deliberate. Her breath measured, even as the cold tried to steal her warmth. The blizzard pressed in from all directions, snow slicing across faces, ice crystals forming instantly on exposed skin, and the roar of the wind making even shouted commands meaningless. Each SEAL was isolated within the white haze, relying on instinct and training to stay together. But their dependence on Maya's knowledge of the terrain and ice patterns was growing with every passing minute. She moved fluidly, almost like a shadow, across the frozen ground, checking for weak spots, listening to the creaks and groans of the ice underfoot. Every second carried weight, every choice a matter of life or death, and the storm left no room for error or hesitation. Maya's presence was a steadying force amidst the relentless chaos, her awareness bridging the gap between danger and survival. The helicopter, the team, and the whiteout around them all seemed secondary to her focus, which was entirely on navigating the invisible threats that the storm imposed. The air was thick with tension, and each gust carried a reminder of how small and vulnerable they all were against the scale of the Alaskan wilderness. In the midst of the fury, Maya moved with purpose, a quiet anchor in a world ruled by ice, wind, and the unknown. Senior Chief Logan Hayes led the 6-man Navy SEAL team with a quiet authority that demanded respect. At 34, his experience in extreme conditions was unmatched, and every piece of gear was checked meticulously, not just his own but every operator's, ensuring no detail was overlooked. The mission was straightforward on paper, but fraught with hidden dangers: covert reconnaissance to retrieve a sensor canister containing classified intelligence from a glacier fracture, all while navigating GPS drift zones and anticipating the impact of an incoming storm. Every SEAL understood the stakes, but it was Hayes' composure under pressure that anchored the team. His presence, a reminder that discipline and preparation could overcome the environment's unpredictability. Maya Carter, known to the locals as the Ice Veil, was present in the briefing room, yet almost invisible in the official plan. Listed simply as the local spotter scout, her expertise, however, far exceeded what the others anticipated: extreme cold marksmanship, silent movement, and the ability to read ice, snow, and wind as if they were pages in a book. She carried herself with quiet confidence, observing the team, the maps, and the weather instruments, noting subtleties that hinted at potential hazards no one else could detect. While the team focused on speed and stealth, Maya's attention to the environment and survival nuances added a layer of insight that would soon prove essential. The room was tense as maps and satellite imagery were discussed, showing the glacier fracture's treacherous position and the narrow window for extraction. Hayes spoke briefly but decisively, outlining contingencies, exit routes, and the timing of each phase, all while Maya absorbed every detail with a methodical focus. The contrast between the team's forward momentum and the environment's lethality created an underlying suspense, a sense that even the smallest misstep could escalate into disaster. The stage was set for a high-stakes operation, where skill, patience, and acute awareness would determine the difference between survival and calamity. Maya's quiet presence was a counterbalance to the team's intensity, her knowledge of the Arctic terrain giving her an almost prophetic edge in predicting how ice, wind, and snow would influence every movement. Hayes recognized her value but still relied on her subtly, trusting her observations without making her central in the command structure. The tension between urgency and caution filled the briefing room, a silent acknowledgement that nature, not the mission brief, would dictate the pace and outcome. As the team finalized preparations, anticipation and respect for skill interwove with the underlying suspense, signaling the dangerous journey that awaited them beyond the safety of the room. The UH-60 Blackhawk shuddered violently as rotor icing built up faster than the pilot could compensate, and sudden microbursts pushed the aircraft off course. With the storm raging around them, the helicopter was forced into a hazardous emergency landing 3 miles away from the planned insertion point. The snow swirling so thick it obscured even the outlines of nearby ridges. The 6 Navy SEALs disembarked quickly, moving on foot through near-zero visibility, each step a careful negotiation with the frozen, uneven terrain. The wind gnawed at exposed skin and soaked insulation layers, turning the sub-zero environment into a deadly trap that threatened hypothermia with every passing moment. Separated by the whiteout, visual contact among the operators broke down, leaving the team to rely on instincts and sound for coordination. Maya Carter moved confidently ahead of the group, listening to the subtle differences in the crunch of ice, the drift of wind, and the faint groans of snow under weight, interpreting these signals to find the safest path forward. She maintained situational awareness not only for herself but for the team, subtly guiding movements without formal recognition or orders. Every choice was deliberate, calculated against both the environmental hazards and the mission's survival needs. Her precision, a stark contrast to the surrounding chaos. The storm intensified as they progressed, whipping snow into blinding sheets and masking hidden crevices beneath fresh drifts. Maya paused frequently to evaluate the terrain, using her knowledge of wind patterns and ice formation to avoid thin spots that could give way under pressure. The SEALs followed her implicitly, trusting the invisible guidance of someone they were only beginning to understand. Each decision she made carried life or death weight, and her calm, methodical presence stabilized the team amid the disorienting, relentless assault of the blizzard. As they navigated, the reality of the separation pressed on each operator, the cold seeping deeper, and every sound amplified in the quiet of the snow. Maya's ability to interpret the environment, anticipate threats, and orchestrate movement without fanfare established her as the team's critical survival asset. Even without acknowledgement, her actions ensured that each operator could maintain footing, orientation, and composure against overwhelming odds. The insertion gone wrong had turned into a crucible, and Maya's composed precision in that chaos made the difference between life and disaster. Maya Carter moved silently through the Arctic whiteout, her senses tuned to the subtle signals of the frozen landscape. She tapped the ice methodically, listening to the tone to detect load-bearing surfaces, while reading the sastrugi ridges and wind shadows to identify hidden dangers beneath the snow. Snow grain drift and subtle changes in the terrain guided her path, allowing her to navigate blind with confidence. Each step deliberate to avoid weak spots or sudden cracks. The team's position remained uncertain, and she moved with precision, ensuring that each operator could follow without exposing themselves to the storm's full fury. When 2 wolves appeared, tracking sense carried on the wind. Maya calmly deployed, tactical diversion measures, placing decoys to redirect the predators, while using anti-IR techniques to mask the team's thermal signature. She monitored the 6 SEALs carefully, noting early signs of hypothermia and coordinating core heat sharing. Pairing operators to maintain vital warmth. Every movement was calculated for stealth and efficiency. Broken pattern navigation, keeping them unpredictable and safe. While her controlled breathing set a rhythm that synchronized the group's micro-movements, the environment was hostile. Every gust a potential threat. But Maya's calm, methodical approach stabilized the team amid uncertainty and danger. She paused to assess the terrain, sensing subtle changes in ice thickness and wind patterns that others would miss. Using her knowledge of snow and cold to plan the safest route, each decision balanced the immediate threat of hypothermia against the long-term necessity of staying on course. A careful calculation under immense pressure. The team trusted her without question, their survival increasingly dependent on her expertise. Though she received no formal acknowledgement for her guidance, her low-profile presence and silent leadership allowed the SEALs to move with confidence, even in a landscape that could have swallowed them without warning. The storm pressed on. Whiteout conditions, blurring perception and heightening tension. Yet Maya remained composed. Her methodical scanning of the terrain unbroken, every step, every pause, every glance at the shifting ice and drifting snow informed the next move. Creating a rhythm that turned chaos into manageable steps, she maintained strict discipline in energy and movement, conserving strength while navigating the lethal environment with unwavering focus. In this frozen crucible, her knowledge, precision, and calm decisiveness transformed a potentially deadly separation into a controlled and survivable operation. Maya Carter's eyes caught a movement in the whiteout. A figure advancing with a posture that did not match the Navy SEALs' formation. She raised her M110 Semi-Automatic Sniper System with calm precision. The reticle settling on the target as wind and snow threatened to obscure her line of sight. One deliberate shot neutralized the threat instantly, the sound muffled by the storm. While she maintained full situational awareness of the surrounding terrain and her team's position, every action was measured, ensuring the target was accurately engaged without endangering friendly forces. Immediately after the engagement, Maya used the challenge response code embedded in her mission packet to verify identity, confirming that the remaining figures were friendly and preventing the risk of misfire or confusion. Her professionalism and discipline in following protocol demonstrated a level of control and training that even seasoned operators could respect. The SEALs, initially unaware of who had intervened, felt a mix of surprise and relief as they realized Maya had been the unseen protector guiding their survival. The revelation highlighted her critical role, elevating her presence from overlooked spotter to indispensable asset without exaggerating the violence or danger of the encounter. The whiteout continued to swirl around them. But Maya's calm, methodical handling of the threat restored a measure of order to the team's movement. Her ability to act decisively, verify identities, and maintain awareness under extreme conditions reinforced the trust the SEALs now placed in her judgment. Suspense lingered in the air, yet the team gained confidence, moving forward with a clearer sense of security and direction. The engagement underscored not just her skill as a sniper, but her emerging position as a leader whose quiet precision could turn imminent danger into controlled survival. Maya Carter led the Navy SEALs across the treacherous ice field with a careful, deliberate rhythm, moving in a broken Z pattern that minimized the risk of falling through thin ice. She tapped each surface with her knife sheath, listening to the subtle tones that revealed whether the ice could bear the team's weight, while guiding the hypothermia case on a waterproof sled with precise, coordinated movements. The operators followed her breathing cues, timing each microstep to maintain balance and reduce stress on fragile surfaces, every motion choreographed for survival in the sub-zero conditions. Her low-profile navigation and disciplined pace turned a potentially deadly crossing into a controlled, though tense, progression toward safety. The storm continued to rage, and hostile drones scanned the whiteout with thermal optics, forcing Maya to deploy anti-IR techniques and use thermal contrast spoofing to mask the team's heat signature. She carefully placed decoys and manipulated core body warmth to create false readings, ensuring the drones would bypass their position without detection. Each decision carried life or death weight, balancing stealth against the urgent need to move the team and the hypothermia case forward. The SEALs trusted her implicitly, moving as one unit, following cues that they could not see but instinctively understood. Every step across the ice demanded focus. The shifting snow and hidden pressure ridges a constant threat underfoot. Yet Maya's calm precision dictated the pace. She observed subtle changes in ice tone and wind direction, adjusting their path with quiet authority that made the operators feel secure, despite the extreme environment. The team's reliance on her knowledge grew with each careful advance, their confidence in her judgment solidifying under conditions that would have overwhelmed anyone less skilled. Suspense and danger were constant companions. But Maya's meticulous planning and execution transformed the crossing from a gamble into a navigable path of calculated survival. As they neared the far edge of the ice field, each operator moved with synchronized discipline, the hypothermia case sliding safely behind. The drones continuing their sweep unaware of the deception. Maya's calm, methodical presence ensured no sudden movements betrayed their position, while maintaining forward momentum in the harsh, unforgiving storm. The crossing demonstrated the critical importance of her Arctic expertise, low-profile tactics, and ability to convert environmental observation into actionable survival strategies. By the time the ice ended, the SEALs had come to rely not just on training and strength, but on the quiet authority and precise judgment of Maya Carter, whose leadership had become the linchpin of their survival. The UH-60 Black Hawk appeared through a brief clearing in the blizzard, its rotors cutting into the wind with a force that threw fresh snow into a blinding swirl. The extraction window was narrow, just 4 minutes to lift the hypothermia case and the 6 Navy SEALs before the weather could close in again. Each operator clipped into the hoist with double carabiners, coordinating body heat pairs to maintain core warmth while relying on redundancy measures to reduce risk in the microburst conditions. Maya Carter moved last, sliding her feet carefully on the ice-coated steel, when her glove slipped and she began to fall backward. Senior Chief Logan Hayes reacted instantly, locking his hand around her harness and pressing her against his chest. Using every ounce of strength and skill to prevent a catastrophic fall, the winch cable sang under tension as the helicopter clawed for altitude, the rotor downdraft, turning the falling snow into a near-vertical wall. Every motion required coordination and precision, from the crew chief managing the cable to the operators, timing their ascents, all while keeping steady under the storm's unpredictable gusts. The extraction demanded absolute focus, and the team moved in perfect synchronization, relying on training, trust, and the calm authority of Maya and Hayes to navigate the deadly conditions. The hypothermia case was lifted first, followed by the SEALs in carefully measured pairs. Each a testament to discipline and practice technique. Maya and Hayes were the last to move, the helicopter swaying in the gusts as they clipped in together, their combined weight testing the limits of the winch system. Despite the extreme danger, their movements were deliberate, their timing precise, every second critical to maintaining control over the precarious situation. The storm roared around them, but through teamwork, experience, and focused attention, the SEALs were lifted safely from the ice, leaving the blizzard behind, while adrenaline and relief surged through the team. By the time the helicopter cleared the tree line, the tension that had gripped the operators began to ebb, replaced by recognition of what had just been accomplished. Maya's skill and calm under pressure had guided the team through both the ice crossing and the harrowing extraction. Hayes' decisive intervention ensured her safety and reinforced the trust and cohesion that had carried them through the mission. The rescue showcased the lethal efficiency of disciplined procedure, environmental awareness, and teamwork under extreme Arctic conditions, leaving no doubt that preparation and composure were as vital as strength and speed. Maya Carter declined every interview request that followed the mission, accepting only replacement gear to replenish what had been consumed during the storm. She quietly left extra supplies for the helicopter crew that had risked the extraction, prioritizing their well-being over recognition or accolades. Her humility and focus on the team's needs underscored a leadership style defined by action rather than words, reinforcing the respect she had earned from everyone involved. In doing so, she set a standard for quiet, effective service that resonated far beyond the immediate mission. The mission's lessons were codified into the Ice Veil Pathing Protocol (SOP), a new standard covering wind lull timing, ice acoustic note reading, battery warmth, discipline, IR spoofing, and breath count movement for zero visibility crossings. These procedures reflected Maya's meticulous attention to environmental signals and her ability to convert complex survival techniques into actionable guidance for future operators. The protocol ensured that her expertise could be shared systematically, improving safety and effectiveness in Arctic operations and preserving knowledge gained under extreme conditions. Each measure reinforced her impact, showing how careful observation, patience, and practical skill could translate into life-saving practice. Beyond the military, Maya's influence extended to local Alaskan communities, where residents began leaving reflective markers and breadcrumb systems along known river crossings and high-risk ice zones. These voluntary measures created a network of guidance inspired directly by the mission's methods, demonstrating how one individual's skill and foresight could benefit a wider population. Her actions encouraged collective responsibility for survival, blending professional discipline with communal care and reinforcing the principle that knowledge is most valuable when shared. The ripple effect of her expertise highlighted both the practical and moral dimensions of her quiet leadership. Admiration for Maya grew organically, rooted in respect for her capability, judgment, and restraint under extreme conditions. She remained uncelebrated in public, yet her influence shaped procedures, community practices, and the mindset of operators who had witnessed her competence firsthand. The real-world consequences of her patience, skill, and steady leadership became clear, showing that effective action could inspire without spectacle and save lives through careful, deliberate choice. Her story became a testament to the enduring power of quiet excellence in the most demanding and dangerous circumstances. Maya Carter stood alone at the edge of the ice field. The storm finally spent, leaving a quiet stillness across the frozen expanse. She tested the ice beneath her feet, noting its solid, reliable surface, a stark contrast to the treacherous terrain she had guided the seals across. True strength, she reflected, came not from speed or power or rank, but from patience, careful observation, and humility. The ability to act decisively and effectively without seeking recognition. Her calm, composed presence carried the satisfaction of keeping her promise to a former instructor and to the team she had saved. A quiet testament to skill and integrity. The wind had settled, and the only sounds were the faint echo of melting snow and distant shifting ice. Maya absorbed the moment, feeling the weight of the decisions and restraint that had ensured survival, knowing that measured judgment mattered more than heroics. The lesson of the ice field lingered. Heroes often operate quietly, their impact revealed only through lives preserved and challenges overcome. With a final glance at the frozen landscape, she adjusted the shell casing around her neck, a symbol of commitment and continuity, and began the steady walk back toward the trees, carrying with her the peace and quiet pride of understated heroism.